I'm Wallace Red. Joining me today is Omar Baruti, Chase Madkins, and Cedric Curbison. And the number to call, 901-327-2500 or 901-327-2777. At 3, we shall transition across the hall to AM 730 KQPN. You may line it up this way. TuneInRadio.com, West Memphis, Arkansas Sports Channel. You may pick us up online on WMQM, TuneInRadio.com, AM 1600 WMQM, Lakeland, Memphis. Today's topic, local politics in Memphis and the upcoming midterm election. But first, we'll say a few things about some other things and upcoming events. Big shout out to Nataki Ajanaku for her good networking work. Say it that way. And we thank Miss Lois Lomax very much for her continued courageous and undying support. In fact, we see that while we're talking about the Lomaxes, we see that Penny Hardaway signed. We see that her grandson, Alex Lomax, signed. And we've raised the question, is this a big deal, and more specifically for Memphis, Tennessee? I say the potential is great, great economic potential. The question is, how can these young men help themselves and each other? But more importantly, how can Penny Hardaway help these young men with their growth and development? Not only that, this young man, Alex Lomax, is an A student. So going forward, I'd like to have these conversations around education, around economic development, goals and objectives, and developing a plan that would help these young men aspire in life and throughout life, period. We'll raise questions like, how can these young men continue to grow with their growth and development? What challenges will they face? And ways in which to navigate around those challenges and problems. Because we know one thing. We know that the media can build you up and the media can tear you down. And we know that once they are done with you, in many cases, if you have not been smart, they throw you away. And I won't get into the history of athletic entertainment right today, but that day will be coming and we will have these discussions. Goals and objectives, action plan. Is this about economics? I'll say that it's about economics. And I'll say that as a people, we don't talk about money enough because there are many groups running around here busy trying to prove how smart they are, how much they know. My big philosophy, semantics, going to meeting after meeting after meeting and make a plan for another meeting. So should it be about economics? And I say yes. So let's say a few things about that. Then we'll move in to our topic. Give us a call right here, 901-327-2500. Or call us at 901-327-2777. Midterm election, politics in Memphis. We hear some rumbling, some rumoring about W.W. Harrington jumping in the race, running for mayor, Omar. We have many, 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 and more. And we hear some talk about there are those who splitting the vote, jumping in the race, and being paid to do such. We hear this kind of carrying on. But I want to go now to Omar Baruti. And let's get ready. Omar.
I'd like to thank you for listening in, and I'd like to remind you that the views and opinions expressed on this radio show, especially today, are not the views and opinions of this radio station nor of our advertisers. And I'd like to also remind you that this show is really brought to you for the benefit of our children. Children make up 20% of the households of America, but they are 100% of our future. We have got to plan that future for our children. Thank you for listening in, and let's go ahead and get started.
I like what you said. We have to plan our future for our children. We just happen to be talking about this avenue, but there are so many avenues that we must begin to talk about, and it must be around economics, social, political. And let's say something about politics. Do you know that politics, it is political to cross the street at the red light? There are some people say, I don't get into politics. I don't deal with politics. But politics has to do with policy making, making policy. You have those sitting up there, and they have become complacent. They are relaxed because they get reelected and reelected and reelected again and again because they don't feel that they will face any challenges, especially from the people of the community. And let's throw this in there while we're at it. Chase, voter education. No, but wait a minute. Voter apathy. What is that? Do we see this kind of carrying on and behavior in Memphis? And I'll tell you what I experienced. When I was, you know, LaTroy Williams was running last time. So I was out there working for him, trying to help him out. And many of the older people didn't see many young people. This is why I raised this question. They didn't care for a conversation. I just go in and push a button. Or I just go in and vote for corn because I've always voted for corn. So what's wrong with that picture? I'm going to go to you, Chase. Any parts of it, Chase? Sports, athletics, voter education, apathy?
The lack of political education has to always be considered and looked at. I believe when we try to do a comparison,
yes,
generationally speaking, or a comparison in terms of the then and the now and the future, ultimately we will see that then we were challenged with more overt political attacks. We was challenged with more overt social challenges. Everything was more overt. Everything was in your face. So the education was a requirement before you walked out the household. You had to be informed of what to do and what not to do, what you needed to know and what you did not need to know. So things like voting, civil rights were household conversations, you know, dinner discussions relative to black and white households. Whereas today, you know, think the lines are a little more blurred, so to speak. Things are a lot more covert with the application of modern day technology. So misinformation is very widespread, and so the youth have a lot of questions, and it's just not that much time for the average adult in today's society to answer all of the questions that the youth have. So they tend to just be left to their own devices and stay out of the way, and that's usually what we see, if you know, in terms of voting. So I would, you know, that's my response to that question.
Yeah, I like what you said. So what is this stay out of the way thing now? Because I was going to ask you what has happened to the kitchen table discussions about politics and voting. And you answered some of it.
Yes.
But then you said stay out of the way. And we were talking about, Omar always opens up with our youth, our young people, our children. And we see our young men on the table with sports. Double question. Can this be a catalyst to a bigger economic picture? So, double question. What is this stay out of the way? What are the consequences of that kind of language?
Well, staying there is funny because that's a very popular phrase in today's social, I guess, environment amongst young people. Just staying out the way.
Okay.
Staying out the way.
Staying out of the way. Okay.
We've become accustomed to it because that's what has happened to us. We've been moved out of the way. Again, I said this last week, or not last week, but I said this in context of a question that was asked by a organization, a startup organization called The Collective, that addresses the needs of youth, or the youth achievement gap here in Memphis. And I expressed to them that the average young person of today, and not too many days before, or so many years, spend most of their lives trying to avoid the pitfalls of jail, gang violence, drugs, etc., etc. And those that don't have that specific set of challenges usually deal with the challenge of parental delinquency, institutional delinquency, whether it be the schools or the many organizations or institutions that are charged with and funded with the resources to do the complete opposite of what they actually have done. If we looking at the actual records statistically, so it's just a failure on institutions. It's a failure on the institution of parenthood. It's a failure on the institution of education. Definitely a failure on the institution of corrections. And it's just a trickle down effect to where young people just, they feel safer. You feel safer, not really trying, because you're gonna clash with the system. If you stay in it, if you deal with this, the way things are designed and the way things are perpetuated against you and not for you in most cases, you're gonna have some clashes. It's gonna be a fight. So the easier thing to do is to just, remove yourself, get lost, things of that nature. So that's kind of more of a social context. The more street, more common context you might find with staying out of the way is simply not wanting to participate with the foolishness, because a lot of what is presented most times is foolishness. But the most foolish thing I think that I've encountered as a younger person is the concept of the idea that I'm not old enough to understand foolishness when I see it.
Okay.
Or hear it. I may not be as wise enough to articulate it, or as emotionally, restrained enough to maybe not spaz out. But that does not mean that my spirit cannot comprehend foolishness when it's in my midst. So
okay.
I hope I answered that question.
Yes. Cedric, I see you nodding your head. Chase has given us a lot to unpack. And you are from Philadelphia. And we're talking about the combination of things, the youth, politics, contrast and compare for us, if you will. Jump in there and take it away.
Well, I agree with what the brother was saying here. Staying out the way seems to be the best way to avoid trouble. But we need to be in the way right now. We need to be in the middle of everything that's going on. We need to be in the middle of the economic transactions and the transitions that are going on in our communities. And I know that Brother Chase was not saying not to be in the way. He was given that description of what we utilize that phrase for in the urban communities. No, I just again wanted to flip the flip side of it, that we definitely need to be in the way. Staying out of the way is allowing what has been going on, the same old good old boys network, to continue to move forward. It continues to allow all of the funds that are coming into our communities to pass through our communities, go around our communities. I sit here in Memphis and I count at night because the FedEx planes ride right over top of my house at night. I guess I'm in the middle of one of the highways. of the FedEx. But I'm counting $5 million every time one of those planes go by, and I'm pretty sure I'm short in the numbers that are going out of Memphis. And I'm looking at the disparities that are in Memphis, and I'm just wondering what kind of small tax could be on things like that, because Memphis generates a lot of money. Trenton, New Jersey has a sign on the side of their bridge that's humongous and says Trenton makes and the world takes. But I think that they need to pick the bridge up, because Trenton probably does make, but I can't see any city that I've been in that makes more than Memphis and the world takes, because it's going out of Memphis. It's clearly not here. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that there's it seems to be a bunch of holes in the balloon of Memphis here with these things. But yes, sir.
Okay, 901-327-2500 is the number to call, or 901-327-2777. So we're talking about a conglomerate of things now. Chase has given us quite a bit to discuss, to unpack. So Omar, we're talking about the youth. We're talking about voting, voter education, voter apathy, all of the above. Take it away, Omar.
You know, I like what I see when I see Black Lives Matter and the youth out there in the streets of America demanding justice. That's what happened in the days of Dr. King. It wasn't the old people out there with Dr. King. These were children who were out there in the streets with Dr. King protesting. A lot of the old people felt like you need to slow down, and white folks would eventually give us what you were looking for. The children were demanding justice, and they wanted it right now. When I see movements like Me Too, Enough is Enough, when I see those kind of things happening in this country, I like that invigoration of the youth, because that's what I see most of the time is the youth. If the change is going to come, it's going to come right there with our youth. That's their future, and they've got to make it happen for them. And I stand with them. I stand with them, and I'll support them, because they need to make some changes in this country. It's going on a wicked, immoral path, and the only way to bring it back is go out into the streets and protest. Those congressmen that don't represent you, get rid of them. Don't even give them a second chance to take another breath on your politics. And you're right, it's all about politics. Everything that we do in this country is about politics. Everything, from the healthcare system, the education system, the way you build bridges, all that's about politics. If we don't control the political process in this country, you control nothing.
Yes, and also, Omar, what are the consequences of not being engaged? When I hear stay out of the way, I hear just what Chase says. I hear don't get involved, don't be engaged. And these are the individuals who have just what is necessary: courage, energy, stamina. And while you're at it, Omar, say something about Dr. King 50. Where do we go from here while you're at it? So we've got a lot to unpack. We've got some time to go. Let's move with the quickness. Hold on, caller. Let's get a comment from Omar. All right, Omar wants to go to the caller. Go ahead, caller.
Oh, yeah, this is Brother Chris Walton.
Brother Chris Walton, go right ahead.
Yes, sir. Here in Memphis, we have a predominantly black city. We have some wealthy blacks, very well-educated blacks in this city too, in all high places from business to politics. It's a shame that this city is still controlled by the press. Something wrong with that picture. Let y'all comment on it.
All right. Chris Walton said, Omar.
He's right on point. Black people have to wake up. This is a predominantly black city. What are you doing? You must be asleep. And not asleep, but in a coma. For these people to take control of your city, and you don't even vote them out of office. You should vote them out. They don't benefit you. When I saw an article in the Daily News, the Memphis Daily News, and they had a picture of George Flynn and David Lenore and the Shelby County trustee all celebrating the victory that Donald Trump had achieved. I'm thinking Donald Trump don't represent you, and neither of these politicians represent you. You should have voted them out of office and had a recall election and got them out before their term was up. They don't represent you, and you should not have them in positions of power over you. You've got to change that reality. But we need to have like what Dr. Duke got, the Congressional Committee of Tennessee. We got to have a group of people that can come together, sift out these politicians and their political agendas, and if they don't represent us, come together and sign a petition to get them out of office immediately. Not down the road when the re-election comes, but immediately. Get them out of office and then put somebody in that can represent you. If we're not that politically wise, then we are in a coma. And I hope somebody can come get us out of it.
Say something about where do we go from here, as it was a result of this last commemoration event, Omar.
Hello?
You know, even with the Dr. King. Dr. King was murdered by agents of the United States government, and that's been borne out time and time again. Right now, we emotionally entrenched in the legacy of Dr. King, but we got to wake up and know what we're dealing with. This is a wicked government. And if you don't wake up to who I'm like Brother Walton, the oppressor is still oppressing you, and you in a state of, a dormancy, like, you can't do anything about it. You got the power to do it. This is a black city. Then we got to get up and make it happen. But you got to get up and quit trusting people that they claim they're here for your best interest. If they're not, if they don't demonstrate it on the first go around, get them out of there. Put somebody in that you can control. Because those dollars that come into the community, they funnel those dollars to different parts of the community. I look at Steve Cohen. He funnels a lot of money to the white community in the black Memphis. A lot of money he funnels into this city goes into the white areas of town. We don't get those dollars. So why is he representing us? He wanted to join the Congressional Black Caucus, and the Black Caucus said no. Even though you represent a black district, you ain't black. You ain't even black with how you take the money and distribute. You ain't even black there either. So no, you can't be with us. But again, we got to wake up and stop depending on somebody else to wake us up. We went to sleep after Dr. King was assassinated and gave us a civil rights bill, and we've been asleep ever since.
All right, political education is what I'm hearing at this point. We've got a call from Alex Lomax. Big Alex, go ahead.
Yes, sir. How's it going? How's it going?
Going good?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to call in today. Like I said, my mother's a big listener and a big fan of yours and of the show. And
yes.
Is an honor. Yeah, this is an honor to be on here and to give a chance to give an input on what's going on.
Yes, sir.
In the community.
Go ahead. Now tell us then. Your son signed with the University of Memphis. Is that right?
Well, actually, the signing will be this Wednesday.
Okay.
Right now, we just committed, verbal commit, and it's pretty much, on pace of signing, which, like I said, will be this Wednesday.
Okay. And your son is he's a student?
Most definitely. He's a student athlete. Role model in the Binghamton community. Born and raised in Binghamton. They say Binghamton neighborhood is the hood, or whatever they might want to call it. But it's still in the city of Memphis, public city schools of Memphis, East High School, and I just think that kids that grow up in communities like that should have opportunities, and through whether it's sports, academics, whether it's music, or whatever it is, there's something for the kids to have to look forward to have an opportunity to move forward in their lives and in their career. Mm-hmm. And such with my son, as far as with him, is sports. And I would like to thank East High School, his coach, Penny Hardaway, his ex-coach, but with his new coach, his ex/new coach. Mm-hmm. And I would like to thank him for giving my son the opportunity, to be able to show his skills out there on the court with his summer league. AAU team, Penny, which they, I think, just recently changed it to Club City, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. That's the new name for it now, but it's opportunities. We create opportunities for these kids mm-hmm. to have scholarships and further their career. Whether, like I said, if it's sports, music, and that's why I think that we should continue to help our youth in these communities such as Binghamton, North Memphis, Evergreen, Hollywood, mm-hmm. South Memphis, just the
can't be afraid. You know, we have to help, and we gotta quit thinking like that. You know, like, hey, you know, that's the neighborhood. So we got to be able to bring these neighborhoods back up. And if it starts with sports, and if it starts with music, hey, you know, I'm behind it 100%. So, you know, I just want to thank just everybody that's been following my son, my family, the Lomaxes, and I just want to say something. I want to give a shout out to my mother, Miss Lois Lomax. I love her to death. And this conversation, you know, she's making this conversation that I'm having now. She's making it all possible, you know. And I love my mother to death. So Miss Lois Lomax, I know you listening. I love you, Mama. And you know, and I just thank you for the great job that you have done for my family, for me, and our family, Mom. You know, she's a great mother. And that's what we need more with all the mothers. You know, you have to be in your child's life and the kid's life as a mother. Everything starts at home with the mother and father. So, you know, we have to do better with our kids as a mother and the father, whether they fit together, separated, co-parenting. We have to do better with our kids, you know, as parents, and that's where it all starts. So when our kids going off to school, and we try to blame these teachers, and we try to blame the principals, and we try to blame their friends, because you know that's wrong. It started at home because we should teach them to respect the teacher. We should teach them to choose the right friends, and we should teach them to follow the rules. And it's just automatic. So, you know, I just think we have to do more as adults, parents, as communities, as citizens, to help the youth, because, you know, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, brother.
All right, we thank you. I hear that you understand life, that it consists of more than just sports. You said economics, whatever your strong point is. I heard you point that out. And if your strong point, whatever your strong point may be, let us highlight those points in our young people, our youth, and push them forward, guide them and give them the instruction. You know, Bill Cosby is under attack now, but I heard him say something a long time ago, and he said that it is a shame, it is ridiculous if you have a skill or a talent and you don't use it. That's detrimental. But you pointed out that it is the parent's responsibility first and foremost, not the teacher, not the school, the administrator. And that is...
Let me speak on that.
Go ahead.
It starts at home.
Yes.
You know, and I don't want to, you know, make myself seem like, you know, the teachers and the principals, you know, it's not, everybody plays a role.
Yeah.
But, you know, it starts at home and with the parents. You know, this is automatic. And when they get off to school, so, you know, I advise for, you know, teachers and principals and friends, you know, I advise for those to still play their, they still have a role and a part to play in these kids, in the kids' life. So, you know, they still should play a big factor. But, you know, everything, like, hey, it starts at home. And I remember the times, like, when my mom and dad, before I even started school, kindergarten, you know, I can go back to just that far, but, you know, I remember the time we would be at home, in the house, and just, you know, doing this and doing that, and then we do something wrong, and my mama most definitely would pinpoint it out, and she wouldn't come and put me, or she wouldn't come and get me or nothing like that. She would come and tell me, hey, look, you don't do that, because you don't need to, I don't want you at school doing that. Even she explained to me why she didn't want me doing that. Because things that we do as kids, it'll follow us and we would take it elsewhere. If we do it, if our mother and father allow us to do it at home, we would go to the zoo, or we would go to the store, we would go to church, we would go wherever it is and repeat the same thing if we're not getting corrected at home. So we must get corrected at home first. So for us parents, we must correct our children and explain to them why. You know, even as teenagers, we still, it's the same way. You know, once they get in school, and start school, you know, I don't care if they're in the 12th grade, 11th grade, in college. If they're doing something wrong, it's just explain to them, hey, look, you shouldn't do that because of, you know, whatever reasons. But, you know, we just have to be more, we have to be more involved in our kids' lives, you know, and as well as the community, neighbors. You know, everybody counts. Everybody counts. It's like I said, dealing with kids is tough. It's really tough. And, you know, even when it's time to party train a child, it's very tough and it's frustrating. So we can't give up on our kids, because sometimes I know we think like, man, shit, come on, you know, he act like he don't want to use his pot, or he's not, you know, doing it like he should. He's still, you know, doing it, and I still have to change his diaper. And, you know, we have to accept that and be like, hey, that's life. We go through the same stage cycle. And once we can be able to accept it and learn it and deal with it, you know, it just help us be able to do it, you know, get through it better. So, you know, with that being said, you know, I just feel like it's a whole as a community, and with parents, community, neighbor, friends, everybody, for us to help the youth, to the kids get in better situations, because, you know, it starts everywhere. The kids, you know, they kind of rebellious sometimes, they kind of hard-headed, you know, we just want them to listen, and sometimes they won't listen, but we have to stick to it and you know, be gracious about it while we're doing it.
All right, thank you for your call. Brother Alex Lomax. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do call again sometime.
Yes, sir, most definitely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Parental guidance and education. Chase, you wanted to jump in there.
Yes, sir. To the caller, you know, you made a good point about how you said typically children behave in the public the same way they behave at the household. I agree with that in part, because there are many cases, including my own, where I behave one way in the household, but when I got into certain spaces, I conformed my behavior to where I was. Now I'm gonna give you an adult example of it. As an adult, where this happened for me, I was in the military. In the armed forces, you know, it's hard work, no play. You know, very little sleep, very little rest, very tiring stuff. You know, and one of the only guaranteed ways that you could get a break without question was if you went and smoked. If you took a smoke break, they would not, at least as far as the Navy was concerned, they would not deny you. They had to allow you to take a smoke break. And so initially, going in, I was not a smoker. I loathed it. I loathed the idea of it. Didn't like the smell of it, none of it. But eventually, I started to see, man, these people is disappearing off the deck. Where are all these people going? You know, and so finally, you know, I caught on, and I gave it a try. You know, I went in the smoke pit. I was like, I'm just gonna stand in there and hold my nose and just relax. You know, get a 15-minute, you know, just break. And it was packed, and so that became the cultural norm. It's cultural continuity. See, it just came along with the environment that I was in, that it was understood that if you wanted to get a break, because they ain't gonna give you a break, right? So if you wanted that break, this is what you're gonna have to do.
Take smoke.
You're gonna have to go take a smoke. Even if you don't smoke, you're gonna be around the smoke long enough that you smoking anyway. You might as well. And so that's what happens, going back to the parental guidance, the parental advisory, or the parental delinquency, when a mother, let alone a single mother, or a single father for that matter, because they exist as well, when they're working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, right? 14, 16, 18 hours. Yes, it's for the betterment of the child, of course. But without that supplemental guidance, you know, it then becomes the parent's responsibility to supplement their child's rearing in their absence. Otherwise, the child's going to be, once again, left to the outside world. They're going to interface
Peer pressure.
with peer pressure, environmental factors. Majority of what we deal with is environmental. We can't act like we're separated from the environment. You know, now you may create a spiritual container within your home where while your children are in their home, they're in their container. Yeah, of course they're protected, right? But it's a whole, and you have an ecosystem outside of their home that they're going to interact with on some level, whether it's then or later, you know. So, you know, we definitely have to look at, you know, how we consider community, you know, or community amongst families that surround us, that's in our immediate environment, because that makes the difference. You know, I even later on today, I will be taking a couple of young brothers that live down the street from my mother to go see Black Panther, you know. And I'm doing this in part as not just a favor to the mother, but to show them that, hey, you know, it's okay to ask, you know, somebody such as myself, hey, you know, you think you could take me to the gym? Do you think, you know, things like you can ask me that. You can, you know, and I'm 99.9% of the time I'm not gonna say no, even if I have to sacrifice one thing or the other. I'm not gonna say no, because I know how important that is. But most importantly, it's even more important that you know that it's not only your right, but or not only the privilege, but it's your right to use me in that capacity.
Yes.
We've got a call. Go ahead, caller.
Wallace Red, how you doing, man?
Hey, Bianca, how are you, man?
I'm doing just fine.
Good.
See you guys still on the same topic. But, it's alright. Sometimes some things take a little bit longer to work out.
Yes. And some things are repetitive, reiterative.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I don't know what you're talking about. Me and people have been talking about the terrorists. So,
Okay.
my favorite president, but I supported voted for him. I'm happy to see the terrorists. Those down in Granite City, Illinois, as I talked to you once before, that steel mill is opening. And it's going to put on at least 2,000 workers. Right now, they just hired 500, and they're orientating them to the latest and innovations in order to modernize this steel mill. And the good thing about it is right next to East St. Louis, and famous East St. Louis, the 1921 race riot. So you have African Americans that will be back in there once again, working and being able to take advantage of the opportunity. Less taxes individually, more wages, able to put their kids to school, not forced with a mandate to buy insurance, whereas they can take that money and use it to pay off student loans, for instance. And what I would like to see next is school reform, that is putting in place the option for school choice, where a parent can put their child in the educational environment that they see that fits for them, that goes along with the plans for the educational outcome. And you know, school choice don't just mean charter schools, to mean anything, any environment that you feel is best. But man, Wallace, I've been finding some very outstanding charter schools, not only the West Michigan Aviation Academy, St. Louis Construction Training School, but you have an aerospace charter school down there in Lakeland Regional in Florida. You got the William Penn Charter School for drone training, Maritime Academy in Philadelphia, baseball Delta Charter School down in the Mississippi area, Meridian Medical Arts Charter High School in Idaho, Arizona Charter School for, guess what, golf.
Listen, we've got a man here from Philadelphia.
One more. You got a charter school for applied tech basketball in New York.
Okay.
Now, that's what I call choice. And parents can set the direction for the education. But you got to get away from these old democratic paradigms like NAACP and also teachers unions, NEA and AFT. We're totally against parents being able to do that.
Well,
that's what these marches should be against. You marching against police activity, which police are your employees, and you should dictate the policy about which they behave and interact with the public. But people don't do that. Some communities do, some black communities do. I mentioned them too, but overall.
Oh, there are some changes being made. But hey, Pianki, we've got a man here from Philadelphia, and you know here in Memphis we're next door to Mississippi. But check this out, Pianki. You mentioned paying off student loans. More and more, like my grandson, for instance, he's graduating next month, and he's choosing to. He has the foresight to see that I don't want to be bogged down with having to make that kind of decision of consuming myself with that.
From high school?
High school, yes. Well, yeah, high school. I don't mean.
Well, your grandson, and I went.
Vocational.
He's going to a vocational school?
Vocational. Well, you know how young people are. He may change. Right now, he's a great artist. He's thinking about, what is that drafting, Chase?
Architectural.
Drafting.
3D printing.
Yeah, something to do with his.
You know, we have a young man here who's the director of medical equipment maintenance for St. Louis University Medical Center. And he's trying his best to identify African American, young African American, who has a medical technician certification, which is a 2-year community college obtainment. And he would hire him on the spot, and the salary ranges from mid-40s up to $8,000 with just a 2-year associate degree.
Okay.
So,
Hey, give me that number, and while you're at it, give me Mocan's number, man.
well, I don't have it right on the tip of my tongue, but I can email it to you again.
Email it to me.
Mocan is doing well by preparing potential workers for this $1.3 to $1.4 billion project that the Corps of Engineers is getting ready to start off in the St. Louis area for defense mapping. And you should well contact them and, find out exactly what they're doing. You may be able to apply the same techniques, programs there in your area.
All right, send me that info.
And once again, go Donald Trump. I'll talk to you later. And Baruti, you look so good when you are quiet.
Oh, really? Go ahead, Cedric. Raise it up, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the last caller there.
Yes.
And I hear a zeal for the charter school system and the privatized way of life that people like Donald Trump are interested in supporting. But the truth is that there's we need our traditional schools. We need our schools to be controlled by people like us. I mean, like a jury of your peers. We also need to be taught through a language that our children understand and the teachers understand from the children. We have charter schools all over Philadelphia, and these teachers are flown in from various places, and because they're based upon credentials. They're not based upon their interaction with children. These children are surprising to these teachers because they come to certain areas of Philadelphia, and these children go by a certain code, which these teachers are not familiar with. These codes are not bad codes. It's only bad to the person that doesn't understand the code. So when you don't understand the language and the code on the street that you're trying to operate in, you want to call the police and everything else, because you don't understand the language and the communication. Now, the second thing I just want to touch on, when you get to the charter schools, I want everybody to understand about these charter schools and how the funding that they show you is the same. Now, they'll show you that the charter school basically gets about the same, and they say a little bit more than a traditional school. But look at your at-risk section of a charter school. The at-risk portion of it, the at-risk gets about double than what our traditional schools get. In a place like Memphis, I'm pretty sure your at-risk level is probably around 90%. So they're getting almost double of what a traditional school is. So when you have a competitor who has double of what you have, whether it be more ammunition, whether it be more food, whether it be more whatever it is, the chances of you succeeding against this fight against, or this competition against that partner, the chances are very slim you're going to win. Yes. So we don't want to, and most of these charter schools are only college-bound schools. He named a school here in Memphis. He named a school in Philadelphia. He named a school in Chicago.
And one in Mississippi.
And one in Mississippi somewhere. But, you know, Philadelphia, I think we have over, I don't know, 100-something schools up there. And you're telling me that we have one aerospace program? You know, the traditional school that I went to, the high school I went to, we had an aerospace program, but it was run by the traditional community. So it's not that we don't know how to run a traditional community. I just went to school, you know, a lot of decades ago where we did have a little more support and we didn't have this competition of privatization of education, because that's all we're really talking about. It's not about a school, it's privatization of business. And one of the businesses that's guaranteed that we're going to need is education. So they want to privatize the education, like you privatize your water, privatize your air. You got, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Yes, sir.
I didn't want to keep beating on that.
And there it is. Again, we're talking about competition, politics, policy making. There's competition here. Governor Haslam, a Republican who supported Obama's program initiative, 2-year free college right here in Tennessee. I heard him speak on the State of the State, where he pledged, I forgot the figures, to put so much money into public schools. He's a Republican. So no, public schools, if I am hearing you correctly, and here's my position, should not be banished. They should not be outlawed for the very reason that you pointed out. Competition, various codes. Lomax pointed out environment, Chase pointed out environment. So yes, choice is okay, you should make good decisions, but public school, I came from public school.
Now let me just help you a little bit with the public school, because they play with that word. So they'll consider a charter school a public school because it's free to the public. That's why we have to put the little tagline on traditional public school.
Traditional.
So that, you know, they've been trying to blend their name into the normal language that we use, so they call the charter school a public school now. So, you know, just so we're aware of this language.
Absolutely. We're talking about the development of skills and insight. There again, education. We've got a call. Let's take a call. Go ahead, caller, and then back to you, Omar.
You know, one thing I like about Philadelphia Public Schools is that they put on their website a listing of all their employees, all the schools like McKinley Williams School, like the Hardin Warren School, like Crossman Kennedy School, like John Weiser School.
Okay.
And they also list the salaries of the teachers. And when you average these salaries out average out about $69,000 a year, with another $18,000 in benefits.
Okay.
Now, I'm not talking about the principals, whose salary goes much over $100,000 a year. And I don't think that there is what you call a lack of money. I mean, in the Freedman World Academy Hill School, or Information Systems Support School, and on and on and on. It's a whole list of students, people that's salary in that school district. And, you know, Wallace, I like to talk about the Kansas City School District, which is under the DSEC plan.
Okay, make it quick. I want to go to Omar. He's ready to go.
And he asked the activists, what amount of money do you need in order to change this situation around? This school district had 33,000 students there. The activists said $1 billion. Russell Clark, the judge, said, I give you $2 billion. That equates to $66,000 a year per child. So it's not the money, it's the way things are being operated. And here's another point too. When black parents are polled and surveyed, overwhelmingly, in the 70-some-odd percentile, they say they want school choice, which would include vouchers. So who would know better what their children need than themselves? Not the NAACP, who talks about let's fix the problem that's broke. You've been talking about this forever.
Okay,
parents should put their child where they want to put them.
Well, no one tried to shoot that down, Pion. Let's get it.
Some good public schools, I grant.
All right.
As I said before.
Yeah.
When parents are asked, Wallace, they say they want to be able to put. I put my grandson in LSU. He's playing for the baseball team. He's doing engineering. He's double major. I didn't send him to Southern because Southern don't offer what LSU offers.
Let's take a call. Let's take a comment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do call again. Let's take a comment from Omar Baruti.
You know, I can talk from personal experience. I have all of my children are out of grade school, but my last 5 children went to charter schools. One was Memphis Academy of Science and Engineering. I wanted a school that would focus on science and engineering. That's my background, and so far that's been my children's background. I have a daughter who's graduating next month from UAPB in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. She has a double major in chemistry and math. I have a son who's just entered MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University, and he's majoring in chemistry with a minor in biology. I have another son who's getting his PhD degree in chemical biology at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. All of them came from charter schools. And I have a daughter who's very gifted. In the 8th grade, she's reading on 2nd year college level. Very gifted. And her desire is to go ahead and become a writer. She didn't want to work for anybody. She wants to write books about the condition of black people in America. But I wanted a school that would emphasize the academic, not the athletics, because these 2 schools don't have athletic programs. I didn't want any athletics. They tried to recruit my son to play basketball. He's 6'4". I said, hell no. You're not going there. And thankfully he didn't go there, and he never had to, he borrowed a nickel to go to college. 4 years at Morehouse. Every summer he was at somebody's university doing research on cancer. And they were paying him to go and do that. And now he's at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and I asked him how the class is coming. What time do you go to class? What your class looking like? He said, I have a key to the building, I just go do research. But again, the foundation was set, but it's because I didn't want them to go to a traditional school where athletics was the focus. I don't want athletics, I want academics. We got to change this world, we're not going to do it playing for the basketball.
Okay, now what are some of the drawing vocational activities or degrees that a young man can pursue, Chase? I'm trying to remember the one that my grandson, Tariq is his name. He's a hell of an artist.
You
He
have
was playing ball. He could have been a great ball player. I don't know why they lost interest in playing basketball, but he still has other talents and gifts.
Well, you have the CNC operator certifications, that's the 3D printing, the machinist trade.
I got it. Graphic design.
Graphic design. All right. That's more, yeah, okay. So that's a softer trade. So you definitely have some hard trades. You have soft trades. Softer trades include graphic design, coding, things arts related, just as relevant in today's day and age, and certainly the future. Networking, things of that nature is never going away. In fact, is pretty much permanent part of our future at this point. Those are very, very much in demand. Vocational trade and skills, as much as construction, carpentry, welding, plumbing, things of that nature, which are probably going to get some further evolving to do. That's going to still require some softer background to complement over time.
I like the decision, real quick, Cedric, that my grandson made, and he's demonstrating a kind of foresight to be a young man, 17 years old, graduating this month. He went and applied for a job. He was 15, and he told the people, I'm 16. And he's been working in a very disciplined manner, I guess, going on 3 or 4 years now. So I'm happy about that. And more young people, Cedric, are deciding, I don't want to be bogged down and consumed and concerning myself with paying for, struggling to pay off student loans.
Yes, sir.
So here's the deal. Vocational training, and I can therefore perhaps become wealthy. And we need another seat. I can perhaps from there do whatever I choose to do. And because all of this, you pointed out, Cedric, all of this stuff, tricks, games, play on words, traditional this, traditional that, and it comes back to competition and policy and politics. And politics is in all of this stuff.
Yes, sir.
Yes. 901-327-2500 or 901-327-2777. Isaac, do we have another call or do we have time for one more call? We have a caller?
Yes, have another call.
Caller, we're at the end. Make it as quickly as you possible, and then we're going to have some closing thoughts. Go.
29 playing the King's administration, you can start saving for your child's education. You can use that $529 million not only for college, but also in lower grades. And Mr. Baruti, I really appreciate what you did with your credential. That is a marvelous thing. We need more stories like that. And I'm going to say this with all sincerity. From now on, from here to the rest of the end of the day, me and you are friends. Wow, Omar's a different story.
Well, tell our other friend Donald Trump to go to him.
Hey, listen, let's have some. Hey, look, Judge Joe Brown said, well, let's have some closing thoughts. You want to go again, Cedric?
I just want
go right
to
ahead.
When we think about these, when we talk about extracurricular activities, we're not just talking about the traditional sports. See, what's getting caught up when we talk about that is all of these arts. You know, when they said that they were removing, and they have removed the extracurricular activities, these are arts and expressions. These are forms of communication. These are necessary tools that our children need to be equipped with as they pursue adult life. Mm-hmm. So many of us have an underlying skill or some type of artistic ability, you know, within ourselves that, you know, wants to come out. So, you know, these are the things that you cut when you only focus on college bound. I'm not, you know, college. All of my children right now are in charter schools. Mm-hmm. They're in charter schools because, unfortunately, there is no competition for them. They're, you know, they are definitely a monster that can't be contended with right now.
Okay. Here's my final thought. We'll take a final thought from Judge Joe Brown. Since we're at the end, I hear the music playing now. But a parent should be able to choose and design a program for their children, be it public school, charter school, competitive school, or whatever, going forward. Final thought, Judge Joe Brown.
It depends a lot. A lot depends on the parents. Some of the parents shouldn't be parents.
Well, we know that, but unfortunately they are.
There is a danger here when you start dealing with the vocational stuff.
Okay.
When I was in school, perhaps, I don't know if they had the problem here, but in California we did not have segregated schools. But they always tried to dovetail all minorities into vocational stuff and de-emphasize college. Mm-hmm. I know, like, I even had somebody, I busted him in his jaw and broke it when I was in law school. I ran into him. But it was a school teacher, and he wanted to do all of the black students the favor of flunking them in his English class so we would be compelled to deal with vocational education. So I went and complained to the boys' vice principal, and there was a big to-do about that whole thing, and he tried to intervene when he got the opportunity to, but I just ran into that teacher some 6-7 years later. He was coming out of the library at USC. I was a UCLA law student. I was going there to do some research, and I caught him and I told him what it was about and broke his jaw.
Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. Join us across the hall as we talk more politics. 901-452-3094 or 901-324-7490. TuneInRadio.com, West Memphis, Arkansas Sports Station.
That was a
AM
judge
730,
saying
AM
that.
1600, WMQM. My only question is with
That's right, Jack,
people
you
that go
up
to college. If you go, there's a lot of people that go to college and when they graduate, they don't get a job in the field that they're in. So
that's true.
It's a lot
my cousin has a degree in biology, and he works down the juvenile court down there.
All right. So
Judge,
You may need biology down there. They got a lot of vermin there. You got a
maybe
lot
that's
of
what.
vermin
Hey, that
down
was the
there.
plan. Now, is that
Elected officials down there and a lot of the high officials appointed down there are vermin. They need extermination.
is that danger present today in 2018? The vocational danger that you were talking
There
about.
is.
It is. Okay.
It depends on where you are. It should be an option. But there is an urge, considering in the context of student loans and how hard it is to get in someplace, they can really teach you to think. There is a real high danger.
And that's
of that.
important. Critical thinking.
See, and then there is no critical thinking being taught.
Yeah, I understand. It's
Well, you know, there was a thing back in the 90s that happened in Arkansas. Some of the parents protested because Arkansas now was teaching their children to be critical and analytical in their thinking, which might cause them to question some of the beliefs that they tried to instill in them, so they didn't want that to happen.
right. So you got it. You need, let me get set up over here. You bring that.
Yes,
Good?
sir.